Right now, your business is likely sitting on this massive, highly lucrative gold mine of customer data. But, if you are anything like the business owners we talk to, you are probably absolutely terrified to actually touch it.
Oh, completely. It's like having a sports car you're too scared to drive.
Exactly. I mean, you need to automate your processes, but
Yeah.
there's this lingering, almost paralyzing fear. Like, the second you try to automate your sales or marketing, you're going to accidentally spam your absolute best clients with broken email.
Right. Or worse, just permanently delete a decade's worth of carefully cultivated relationships with one wrong click.
Yeah, exactly.
hmm
So welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we are taking that exact fear head on.
And it is a completely rational hesitation, by the way. I mean, when you have spent years building a business, the idea of just handing the steering wheel over to a software program, it feels incredibly risky.
It really does.
But the mission of our discussion today isn't just about, reviewing software features or whatever. It is really about understanding the mechanics of a fundamental operational shift.
Yeah, taking all of that static data, like the isolated spreadsheets, the outdated contact lists, and safely transforming it into an active, roaring engine for business growth without breaking your existing systems.
Precisely. It's about turning a static Rolodex into a growth engine.
So to help you navigate this transition, we are diving deep into a really comprehensive source document we got our hands on. It's an incredibly detailed FAQ titled, What Business Owners Need to Know Regarding CRM Automation.
And it's a great read because of how grounded it is.
It is. What really stands out immediately is that they don't start by talking about complex code or, API integrations. They start with a much more practical problem.
The sheer exhaustion of managing too many different tools.
Yes, because traditionally, you had a CRM for your sales team to store phone numbers and track deals, right? And then you had an entirely separate marketing automation tool to send out bulk emails.
Yeah, that's the historical divide. For years, those were two entirely distinct ecosystems.
Completely separate islands.
Right. The sales team lived in one platform, logging their calls and updating deal stages, while the marketing team lived in another, building newsletters and tracking click-through rates. And because those systems rarely spoke to each other effectively, you ended up with just terribly fragmented data.
Which honestly sounds like carrying around two different smartphones all day.
Oh, that's a perfect way to put it.
Right. Like
Yeah.
you have one phone exclusively for texting your friends and another phone exclusively for making work calls. It's wildly clunky.
And your pockets are completely full.
Yeah, you're constantly switching screens, you're paying two separate bills, and half the time you can't even remember which device has the contact you actually need at that moment.
Which is just a massive drag on productivity.
Yeah.
At a certain point, you just want one elegant device that handles everything.
Exactly.
And the software industry recognized that exact friction, which is why the source really highlights the evolution of what are now called smart CRMs. Modern platforms have effectively merged those two previously separate capabilities into one hub.
Right. But before we get too deep into what that actually looks like, I think we should define a term the text uses repeatedly, the workflow.
Ah, yes.
Workflows, because they are mentioned everywhere in this document. Let's break that down mechanistically. It sounds like, corporate jargon, but it's actually the beating heart of the whole system.
It really is. Mechanistically, a workflow is simply an if this, then that chain reaction programmed into the software.
Okay, so it's a set of rules.
Exactly. It's a logic tree. For example, if a prospect downloads a specific white paper from your website, then the system automatically waits 24 hours and sends them a relevant follow-up email.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then if they click the link in that email, then the system automatically alerts a sales rep to give them a call. It is basically a series of dominoes that you set up once, and the software just knocks them down repeatedly based on human behavior.
I love that visual. So, returning to our two smartphone problem. If my modern CRM has these automated workflows built in natively, meaning it can handle the email sequences, the lead nurturing, the campaign tracking, the obvious question is, do I still need that separate marketing software?
The verdict from the source is a definitive no.
Wow. Just cut it completely.
Just cut it.
Yeah.
And the reasoning goes far beyond just saving money on a software subscription, though that is a nice bonus. Consolidating these tools creates what the industry refers to as a single source of truth.
A single source of truth.
Right. When sales, marketing, and customer service are all operating inside the exact same platform, there are no information silos. Everyone is looking at the same data.
Let's visualize that for a second.
Yeah.
Because in the old two-phone system, marketing might look at their dashboard, see that a prospect has been opening every single promotional email, and think, wow, this lead is piping hot.
They're ready to buy.
Right. But over in the separate sales CRM, the sales rep knows that this exact same prospect just called in to aggressively complain about a delayed shipment.
Yeah, that happens constantly in disconnected businesses. It's so awkward.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
Marketing is actively trying to upsell a client who is actively furious with customer service.
And a single source of truth prevents that completely. Anyone in the company can open a contact record and see the entire chronological narrative.
Everything in one place.
Exactly. The marketing emails they opened, the sales calls they received, the support tickets they filed, the context is unified.
Okay, conceptually, I love the single source of truth. You
Yeah.
throw away the second phone, you consolidate into one powerful system. But logically, that brings us right back to the fear we started with at the beginning of the deep dive.
The messy data.
Yes. If marketing has their messy data over here and sales has their disorganized spreadsheets over there, how do you pour all of that historical information into a brand new unified system without causing a total disaster?
You are identifying what the source calls the migration minefield, and it is frankly where most automation projects actually fail.
That does not surprise me at all.
Right. The source tackles this by introducing a highly structured process called data mapping, which at its core is really just about translation.
Translation how? Like between different departments?
Between humans and machines, actually. You are taking human language, the messy, inconsistent notes your team has taken for years, and translating it into a rigid machine language that the software can actually understand and use to trigger those workflows we just talked about.
Got it. The document actually breaks this mapping process down into 3 specific steps: export, cleanse, and structure.
Right.
Now, export makes sense. You're just pulling everything out of the old spreadsheets and legacy databases into the light of day. But I really want to focus on that second step, the cleanse. Because it seems to me that if you skip the cleansing phase, you are actively sabotaging your own automation.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
You have to remember, the software is completely literal. It has zero common sense.
It doesn't know what you meant, it only knows what you typed.
Exactly. It will execute the logic tree flawlessly, but it relies entirely on the data you feed it.
Let's look at a concrete example from the text. Say I have a client named John Doe in my sales spreadsheet, and he's listed as a premium long-term customer.
For a great client.
Right. But over in my old marketing tool, he signed up for a newsletter a few years ago under his personal email, and he's listed as Johnny D, an inactive prospect.
Oh, no. I see where this is going.
If I don't cleanse the data and identify those as duplicates before importing, I'm setting a trap for myself.
A huge trap.
My new automated system is going to send John Doe a lovely thank you for your loyalty email, while simultaneously sending Johnny D, "We miss you, here is a 20% discount code to come back" email.
Which creates an absolute operational nightmare. Not only does the client immediately realize they are talking to a robot that doesn't know who they are, which damages your credibility immensely, but you have also just accidentally offered a 20% discount to a premium client who is perfectly happy paying full price.
That is painfully real. Bad data, it means expensive, embarrassing automation out.
Exactly. So you export, you aggressively cleanse the data to prevent those duplicate disasters, and then you hit the third step, which is structure.
Structure. So that's the setup phase.
Yeah, structuring is where you define the architecture of your new CRM. You have to actively decide what data fields to keep, what to merge, and what to delete entirely. You are basically building the standardized containers that your clean data will pour into.
The source drops a massive pro tip here for the actual import process, and I think it is brilliant in its simplicity. They call it the pilot import.
Yes, the pilot import is crucial.
The advice is to take a tiny fraction of your data, maybe just 50 contacts out of thousands, and run them through the migration first. It is the exact same logic as doing a patch test when you are repainting your living room.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right. You don't just buy a dozen gallons of Tuscan Sunrise and start rolling it on every wall in the house. You buy a tiny sample can, paint a 2-inch square in the corner, and let it dry to see if it actually behaves the way you want it to.
A pilot import lets you spot the broken formatting before it infects your entire database. And the source pairs that strategy with an absolute golden rule. Always, always maintain a secure backup of your original files.
So don't burn the boats just yet.
Never. You never delete your old messy spreadsheets until the new system is fully verified. You migrate in stages, verify the patch test, and only then do you move forward.
Okay, let's assume we have successfully crossed the minefield. The data is cleansed, mapped, and imported safely.
The patch test worked.
Yes, the single source of truth is alive, and the workflows are running. The natural next question is, how do you actually measure if this massive transition was worth all that effort?
How do you prove ROI?
Right. Because I can imagine a scenario where a business owner logs into their new dashboard, sees a chart showing that the system successfully sent out 10,000 automated emails while they were sleeping, and thinks, this is incredible, look at all this productivity.
And that right there is what the source labels as the ultimate trap of CRM automation.
The trap of productivity.
The trap of measuring activity instead of measuring business outcomes. Businesses fall into this habit all the time.
I am going to play devil's advocate here, though. If a piece of software is doing the work of 10 junior sales reps by sending out 10,000 targeted emails overnight, why shouldn't I consider that a massive win? It's doing something I previously paid humans to do.
Because activity metrics are often just vanity metrics. I mean, the software's ability to blast out emails is completely irrelevant if it doesn't move the needle for the company's bottom line.
So busy work is still busy work, even if a computer does it.
Exactly. If those 10,000 emails result in 0 booked meetings, 0 return phone calls, and 0 closed deals, your automation isn't a success story. You have simply built a highly efficient machine for spamming people.
Ouch. Okay, that is a sobering reality check. So if we ignore the vanity metric of email sent, what are the specific mechanisms we should be tracking to prove the engine is actually generating growth?
You have to look at outcomes that directly impact revenue and the customer experience. The first one the source mentions is lead response time.
Okay, lead response time.
Yeah. If a prospect fills out a form on your website at 9 p.m. on a Sunday, an automated workflow should be engaging them immediately, far faster than a human ever could.
Striking while the iron is hot, even on a weekend.
Exactly. The second metric is conversion rate. Are those automated touchpoints actually turning a higher percentage of leads into paying customers compared to your old manual process?
Are they actually buying?
Right. And the third, which is incredibly critical, is pipeline velocity.
Let's define pipeline velocity mechanistically, actually, because it's not just a vague concept of, speed.
No, it's very specific. Pipeline velocity physically measures the number of days it takes for a lead to travel from their first interaction with your company to a closed deal.
Start to finish.
Yes. If your old manual process meant it took 45 days to close a contract because reps kept forgetting to send follow-up materials, and your new automated system instantly routes documents and cuts that time down to 20 days, you have tangibly accelerated your cash flow.
Wow. That makes perfect sense. And what about the people who are already paying customers? Does automation improve their side of the equation?
It absolutely should. And that is tracked via CS, customer satisfaction, and NPS, which stands for Net Promoter Score.
Net Promoter Score being the classic. On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend us to a friend? Question.
Correct. The automation should be making the client's life easier. If a new customer signs a contract, do they receive their onboarding materials and access codes instantaneously?
No waiting around.
Right. And for your service teams, you measure ticket resolution time. When a client emails a problem, does a workflow automatically route that specific issue to the one technician qualified to fix it, bypassing the general inbox entirely?
Oh, that would be amazing.
If so, resolution time plummets and your NPS goes way up.
Those are undeniable business outcomes. But my absolute favorite part of the source material was what they identified as the ultimate KPI. The single most important metric for automation success.
Oh, time saved on admin.
Yes, time saved on admin. It completely reframes the purpose of the technology.
It really does, because when you think about it, automation isn't about replacing your team, it's about amplifying them.
Think about the day-to-day life of a sales professional. If they are spending 3 hours a day doing manual data entry, typing phone numbers into a database, manually logging which emails they sent, updating deal stages from contacted to negotiating, they aren't actually selling.
They're just doing clerical work.
Exactly. If the workflow automates all of that administrative heavy lifting, you're giving them 3 hours back every single day to actually pick up the phone, build relationships, and close deals.
Which is what you hired them for in the first place.
Right. The ROI of the software isn't just the subscription cost, it is the massive amount of human capital you are redeploying.
Which is incredibly empowering. But it does introduce a long-term risk that we need to talk about.
Okay, what's the risk?
Let's say you execute this flawlessly today. Your data is clean, pipeline velocity has doubled, and your team is saving hundreds of hours a month. The system is a massive success.
Sounds like a dream.
But businesses scale. Next year, you launch a new product line. You hire a new marketing director who decides they want to rename a bunch of your data fields. How do you prevent this intricate, highly successful automated machine from slowly collapsing under its own weight as the company changes?
Ah, the automation collapse.
Yes.
To survive the natural growth of a business, the source outlines 4 essential rules for future-proofing your system. And honestly, looking at these rules, it reminds me of the difference between building a single cabin in the woods versus trying to manage a growing city.
Let's walk through them because that analogy is spot on. Rule 1 is document everything. You need a permanent, accessible record of what every single workflow does, what triggers it, and who in the company actually owns it.
So no mystery machines running in the background.
Exactly. Rule 2 is standardized naming conventions. And this sounds incredibly tedious, I know, but it is the bedrock of a scalable system. You have to enforce clear, consistent names for all your data fields across every department.
Let's apply that city planning analogy here to explain why. Because I think of naming conventions a lot like zip codes.
Oh, that works perfectly.
Right. If the Postal Service expects a 5-digit number, and you suddenly decide to write Sector G on your envelope, the mail carrier has no idea what to do, and the package gets lost. The software works the exact same way.
It does.
If your email workflow is programmed to pull data from a field explicitly named first name, but a new employee decides to create a fresh web form that dumps data into a new field called, like, F name, the mail carrier, the software doesn't recognize it.
The workflow breaks.
Yep. And you end up sending out 1,000 emails that start with hello blank.
Which instantly destroys the illusion of personalized service.
It's the worst. So rule 3 is to conduct quarterly audits. And I think we need to explain what an audit actually looks like in practice, because it's not just glancing at a dashboard and seeing green arrows.
No, definitely not. A quarterly audit requires an administrator to physically sit down and review the logic trees. You are looking for dead branches.
Dead branches, like workflows that aren't firing.
Yeah, or firing uselessly. For example, did a workflow trigger an automated promotional email that hasn't received a single click in 90 days? That means the market has shifted, and the automation is now just sending out noise.
You're just cluttering inboxes.
Right. You are also checking to ensure that the pricing listed in your automated templates hasn't been outdated by a recent product update. You are constantly pruning the system to ensure it aligns with your current reality.
That makes a lot of sense. And finally, rule 4 is centralize in the CRM. You want to deliberately minimize your reliance on dozens of third-party plugins and apps.
Keep it all in the family, basically.
Yeah. Whenever possible, keep the core processes inside that single source of truth we established at the beginning. Every time you bolt on an external tool, you introduce a new point of failure.
So those 4 rules, documentation, standardization, auditing, and centralization, are basically the infrastructure that prevents gridlock as your population of data grows.
Now, I want to pivot slightly and talk directly to the listener who maybe isn't running a massive enterprise yet. Because if you are operating a boutique consulting firm or, a local service company with a team of 5 people, you hear phrases like quarterly data audits and complex logic trees, and it's very easy to think, this is overkill. This is designed for big corporations, not for my small team.
It sounds intimidating, for sure, but the source material addresses this specifically, and they note that small businesses actually have the most to gain from automation because they have the fewest human hands to do the manual work.
That is a great point.
The core advice provided for smaller teams is simply to start small, scale gradually. You absolutely do not need to build the entire city infrastructure on day one.
So practically speaking, what does starting small actually look like for that 5-person agency?
You ignore the complex bells and whistles and focus exclusively on a handful of workflows that directly drive revenue.
Keep it close to the money.
Always. The text suggests starting with automated lead routing. Imagine it is 8:00 p.m. on a Friday. A highly qualified prospect visits your boutique agency's website and fills out a contact form.
Okay.
In a manual system, that form generates an email that just sits in a general info@ inbox all weekend. By Monday morning, the prospect has already hired a competitor who replied faster.
Just a total, absolute missed opportunity.
But with a simple routing workflow, the software instantly reads the prospect's industry from a drop-down menu on the form. It recognizes that Sarah is your agency's expert in that specific industry, automatically assigns the lead to Sarah, sends Sarah a push notification on her phone, and instantly emails the prospect a personalized link to book a 15-minute consultation directly on Sarah's calendar for Monday morning.
Wow, so the prospect feels taken care of immediately.
Exactly. And Sarah wakes up on Saturday morning with a booked meeting she didn't have to lift a finger to schedule.
That one single workflow fundamentally changes the responsiveness of a small business.
It really does. And once that is running smoothly, you layer on automated follow-ups for proposals. Then maybe some basic lead nurturing to stay in touch with prospects who aren't ready to buy today. You establish the foundation, and then the platform just scales with you as you grow.
It is incredible how quickly this shifts from a discussion about software features to a discussion about, like, operational philosophy. Let's recap the journey we've mapped out today,
We
because we covered a lot of ground.
we really did.
We started by discarding the outdated idea of treating your CRM like a digital Rolodex, a static place to just store phone numbers. Instead, we explored the mechanics of consolidating your marketing and sales into a single source of truth.
Right. And then we examined the very real dangers of the migration minefield, breaking down why translating human data into machine language requires ruthless cleansing and pilot patch testing before you ever fully transition.
We challenged the vanity metric of activity, proving that blasting out 10,000 emails is completely meaningless if it doesn't improve pipeline velocity, boost customer satisfaction, and achieve the ultimate KPI, saving your human team from the drudgery of admin work.
And we laid out the architectural rules for scale. The zip codes and audits that ensure your automated engine doesn't collapse as you add new employees and new products, whether you are a global enterprise or a team of 5, setting up your very first lead routing trigger.
I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over,
Eh.
because that ultimate KPI saving admin time so your team can focus on relationships brings up a really fascinating paradox about where all this technology is actually taking us.
I love this part.
Right. If you follow the source material to its logical conclusion, and your CRM automation eventually becomes so sophisticated that it seamlessly handles all of the immediate follow-ups, all the scheduling, and all the low-level nurturing, the manual grinding practically disappears. The software is quietly executing all the heavy lifting in the background.
Which leaves the human team with vast amounts of freed up time.
Exactly. But it also means that the moments when a prospect finally jumps on a video call or finally picks up the phone to speak to a real human being, those specific moments become incredibly rare, which makes them incredibly high stakes.
The pressure is really on when you finally connect.
Right? If the software is doing all the technical grinding, the future of business doesn't require us to act more like machines. It actually requires far more raw, unscripted human empathy. We are spending immense amounts of time and money building these automated engines just so we can finally have the luxury of being fiercely human with our customers again.
It is a profound realization. Automation doesn't replace the need for the human touch. It simply clears the stage and demands that the human touch be more impactful and genuine than ever before.
So as you look at your own systems today, ask yourself, are you measuring busy work or are you measuring outcomes? Are you building an infrastructure that can scale, or are you just letting messy data dictate your future? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you on the next one.